Dream of the Red Chamber, Chapter 38.
The combined Chrysanthemum poetry and crab feast. So let's start with the setting and the orchestrators. The sources tell us that the cousins Shi Shangyin and Xu Baochai were the primary organizers.
And they hid their elaborate feast preparations behind this really simple pretext of just enjoying the fragrant osmanthus flowers, the gihua.
Very clever. And the location they chose.
Oh, the location immediately communicated elegance and exclusivity. The Lotus Root Fragrance Pavilion, the Jincheng.
Architecturally, it sounds incredible. Built right in the center of a pool.
Right in the center. It offered 360-degree views through its windows, and it was surrounded by water so clear that Jiamu herself specifically approved of it.
And you couldn't just walk up to it. You had to cross a winding bamboo bridge and these curved corridors to get there.
Exactly. And they didn't just rely on nature. The decor was exquisitely curated. The columns, for example, had these black lacquer couplets inlaid with shells.
The artistry there must have been phenomenal.
It was. And the couplet they chose, it perfectly ties the natural setting to the high culture of the event.
It reads, Yo UKB.
Which means something like, lotus shadows fractured by returning orchid ores, deep fragrance of water caltrop, and lotus traced by the bamboo bridge. It confirms the whole environment was basically a living poem.
But I think the real genius wasn't just the decor, it was the operational planning. This tells you so much about the expectations of 18th century luxury.
Get into that.
They set up separate outdoor stations with 2 bamboo tables. One was just for wine and chopsticks, and the other was just for tea sets, complete with whisks and bowls.
And that's where the analysis gets even deeper. The sources tell us they deployed separate groups of servants who were tending these specialized wind furnaces, shan feng lu.
Separate groups? For what?
Well, one set was just for boiling tea, constantly. The other was dedicated solely to keeping the wine tome de gonre, steaming hot.
Wait, why was that so important? I mean, we're talking about whole teams just to keep the wine hot. Was this just for comfort, or was there something else going on?
It was a crucial cultural necessity, and it was rooted in traditional Chinese medical belief. Crab is considered a highly cold food.
Ah.
So to balance that, to prevent digestive upset or the accumulation of cold in the body, you needed the antidote, constantly steaming hot yellow wine.
So the preparation wasn't just luxury. It was medical compliance.
Exactly. And Jiamu, the matriarch, she immediately recognized that and praised this level of foresight, calling the planning exquisitely thoughtful or zizi.
It's clear that in this society, genuine respect was shown through this kind of flawless, detail-oriented service, not just big pronouncements.
Absolutely. And that flawless execution extended right to the rigid seating plan, which is our next big window into the stratification of power.
Let's break down that power structure right on the table. The upper table, it held Jiamu, the honored guest Shuyima, and the younger generation's stars, Bochai, Daiyu, and Boyu.
Right. And the lower tables held other key relatives like Shang Yun and Wang Furen. But the most revealing detail, well, it concerns the 2 people arguably running the whole show.
Li Wan and Wang Shem, or Feng Ji, the brilliant, ruthless manager of the household.
Precisely. And the sources call their positions virtual seats, Sishizue, at a table near the door.
The implication being they were placeholders, they didn't actually sit.
They didn't sit. They primarily served Jiamu's and Wang Furen's tables. And this is a critical insight. Despite their immense power, Feng Ji controls the money and the staff.
Right.
In this formal setting, she's still functioning in a servant role. Hierarchy meant that proximity to the matriarch required service no matter what your personal authority was.
That feels like such an intentional power play. Why set it up so your 2 most important administrative women are forced to serve?
Because it reinforces the chain of command for everyone watching. It clearly signals that Jiamu is the ultimate authority, and anyone beneath her, no matter how capable, has to prioritize her comfort. Their power is contingent on her.
And it's into this atmosphere of rigid perfection that we get this surprising moment of personal intimacy. Jiami looks out at the pavilion, and it triggers a memory.
She recalls a similar pavilion from her childhood, the Pillow Clout Pavilion, Zhongxiejie. And then she tells this dramatic story. She fell in the water, she nearly drowned, and she hit her head on a wooden nail.
And she still has the physical evidence, a fingertip-sized indentation on her temple. Can you just imagine the shift in the atmosphere? The most powerful woman in the room shares a moment of vulnerability, of near death, in front of everyone.
The silence must have been profound. And this is the exact moment where Mengji, the quick-witted manager, shows why she is so indispensable.
She doesn't wait.
No, she doesn't wait for a formal, stiff response. She jumps in and uses high-risk, transgressive humor. She interrupts the matriarch's solemn memory.
And she flips it. She turns it from vulnerability into a celebration.
Totally. She jokes that the injury wasn't an accident, but a divine intervention, Shen Chagung Xing, that created a perfect little container, a wur, specifically to hold her immense fortune and longevity.
She compared Jiamu's head to the god of longevity.
She did. It's social genius. She risked total disrespect to deliver the highest possible compliment.
And it worked.
It was electric. The text says everyone, including Jiamu, was weak with laughter. It completely broke the tension.
And Jimu even defended her. When Wang Furen suggested Fengji was maybe getting too familiar, Jiamu just laughed it off.
She did. She said Fengji was not that child who doesn't know her place. Jiamu is essentially giving her manager a political free pass to break decorum because it serves the greater purpose of shared enjoyment.
She understands that absolute rigidity just kills the party.
Right. The rules must be known perfectly so they can be strategically bent. Fengji even gave a health reason for the joke, saying she was cheering Jiamu up to prevent cold accumulating in her heart from the crabs.
Which brings us directly to the star of the show, the crabs. And the meticulousness just continues right through the cuisine.
Oh, yeah. This was not a free-for-all feast. The sources are very specific.
They were strictly rationed,
Yeah.
served not all at once, but 10 at a time, brought fresh from the steaming baskets.
It's a classic move of what you might call refined scarcity. Serving them 10 at a time ensures every single piece is hot and fresh, which maximizes the experience. It also controls consumption to maintain that feeling of exclusivity.
It elevates the dish beyond just, food.
Exactly.
But for me, the most illustrative detail of luxury happens after the eating, when things get messy. The hand-washing ritual. This is a real aha moment about the sensory depth of their wealth.
Get this, they didn't use soap. They used green bean flour, lundo mianzi, that was specifically infused or smoked with chrysanthemum leaves and osmanthus pistils.
Wow.
Think about that. The cleaning ritual itself was infused with the very sense of the flowers they were gathered there to admire.
That's not just cleaning. That's performance art. It's designed to leave you with a refined, flowery scent, not a fishy one. Imagine that level of total sensory integration in your life.
And this refinement, this generosity, it extended outward. Xiang Yun, as the host, made sure the entire household benefited. She sent 2 plates of hot crabs out to the concubines, Zhao Yinyang and Zhou Yinyang.
The ones who weren't invited to the main table.
Correct. And then she set up 2 separate tables in the outside corridor for the elite maids, Yuanyang, Hupo, Pinger, the women who made the whole feast logistically possible.
Which again reinforces the power dynamics. They are treated with generosity, but they are kept strictly separate from the families gathering inside.
Precisely.
And predictably, even the maid's corridor couldn't stay orderly, thanks again to Fengji. This is where we get that wonderful glimpse of the highest authority figures mixing with the servants.
Fengji, finished with her duties, wanders out and immediately starts demanding food and wine from them. I mean, she literally steals a cup of wine from Yuanyang and a shell of crab yolk from Pinger.
And the banter gets really spicy. She starts teasing Yuanyang, saying her own husband wants to take Yuanyang as a concubine.
Which is a massive threat, even as a joke. It's a power move masquerading as teasing. And Yuanyang, who is known for her temper, fires right back. She says something like, "Are these words for a lady to say, I won't be satisfied unless I smear your face with my fishy hands?"
And that sets up the ultimate culinary slapstick. The crab yolk incident.
Yes. Pinger, in the middle of all this teasing, jokingly tries to smear a full crab yolk on Hupo.
But Hupo dodges.
She dodges, Pinger stumbles, and she misses. And the yolk goes straight across Fengji's cheek.
Oh, a moment of complete transgressive anarchy. A servant has just smeared food on the face of the household's chief manager.
And when Jiamu hears the commotion and asks what's going on, the maids shout back, laughing, that the master and servant are fighting.
And the rules just completely dissolve. Jiamu and the entire upper table, even the reserved Wang Furen, they all just burst into universal laughter.
That shared laughter is the release valve for all the formality we just spent time detailing. It confirms that for all the rigidity, shared affection, and humor are the true bonds of this family.
But that joyous moment didn't mean control was lost. The sources snap us right back to reality after the peak of the laughter. The feast concludes, and Jiamu pivots back to the stern voice of the matriarch.
She delivers a serious medical warning. She tells Zheng Yun and Bao Chai, and specifically mentions Daiyu, who had only eaten a little bit of claw meat, that crabs, though delicious, are not good, and eating too many will cause a stomach ache.
She goes right back to her role as the ultimate authority on health and decorum.
It's the perfect end to the meal. Authority reasserted not through punishment, but through caution and care.
And after this, they decide against a full cleanup. Bao Yu suggests they leave the big round table and the leftover wine and just adopt a more informal seating arrangement for the poetry session. He asks, isn't it better to sit casually? And this is a moment where leisure, of all things, forces them to reveal themselves. You see everything from melancholy to fierce practicality, all under the guise of a party.
So let's set that scene. It's autumn. The whole thing is supposed to be a picture of, luxurious leisure.
People are eating crabs, drinking wine, just enjoying the season. But right away, even in this perfect setting, you can feel the different temperaments starting to show.
It's all about how they approach pleasure. Just look at Bao Chai. Her literary name is Heng Wujun. She's just so measured and observant.
What's she doing?
Well, she isn't even really focused on the food yet. She's playing with cassia flowers, plucking the petals one by one and tossing them to the fish. It's very contained, almost scientific.
She's interacting, but she's always in control.
Precisely. And then you have the complete opposite, Daiyu, or Xiaxiang Feizi, the melancholy genius.
And she is plainly setting herself apart, isn't she?
Oh, completely. She's sitting on an embroidered stool, holding a fishing rod, but the sources are very clear she's not actually fishing. And she hasn't touched the crab.
She's there, but she's not there.
Exactly. And the others kind of fill the space around these two. Tenchun, Li Wan, and Shichen are off watching egrets and gulls.
A shared focus.
Right. And then Ying Chun is off by herself, completely absorbed, just threading jasmine flowers with a needle. Every single action is like a tiny expression of who they are inside.
Okay, let's talk about the food, because the crabs and wine immediately put a spotlight on Dae's frailty.
Everyone else is feasting. Bayu is being waited on by Jaren, who's peeling the crab meat for him. He's all in.
But Dayu just eats a tiny bit, and almost on cue.
She feels unwell. She complains of a slight ache in her chest, and this isn't just, about indigestion. It's a constant symbol of her fragility.
The rich food of the feast literally causes her pain.
It does. So Bayu, who is always watching her, he just springs into action.
And he orders the wine, the shaji, to be heated up for her. So it's another sign of his obsessive need to protect her.
It is, but it also shows that even to participate just a little bit, just to take one sip, she needs all this special care. Her vulnerability is always right there on the surface.
Which raises a question for me. If she's so frail, why even join the poetry contest? Her participation feels like an act of defiance, in a way.
That's a fantastic point. For Dayu, the creative impulse is just stronger than her physical weakness. Poetry is how she truly lives, even if it costs her.
Okay, so the atmosphere is set. It's luxury mixed with this undercurrent of tension. And then the contest begins. And the catalyst is Shang Yun.
Yes, Pillow of Cloud's old friend. She is assertive, she's organized, she just takes out a list of 12 themes about chrysanthemums and pins them to the wall. It suddenly becomes a formal event.
So what's the one rule that really unlocks this whole thing?
It's actually the lack of a rule. Shang Yun declares no limit on rhyme.
And Bayu loves that. He calls it the correct principle.
He does. It guarantees the poems will be a true portrait of their inner worlds.
Which makes the process of them claiming the theme so much more revealing. They hook a theme and then add their literary name.
And those names are not just 10 names. They are chosen personas. They articulate a deep self-image.
So who grabs what first?
Bao Chai, the master of practicality. She takes the very first theme, Yuju, which means reminiscing about chrysanthemums, and adds her name, Heng.
A theme about looking back, very traditional.
Right. And then Dayu, instead of taking one, she immediately claims two.
Which ones?
The 8th, Wenju questioning the chrysanthemum, and the 11th, Jumeng, the chrysanthemum dream, and she appends Shao.
Questioning and dreaming. So why two, and why those?
The double claim just shows the sudden rush of creative spirit. She knows exactly what she wants to say, and she chooses themes that are all about Isolation, doubt, and, escape.
Not observation, not tradition.
Not at all. Bao follows, taking Fangju, visiting the Chrysanthemum. Then Tanchen takes Zanju, pinning the Chrysanthemum, and sort of teases Bao, telling him to avoid maidenly words.
Right, reinforcing the new freer rules.
Then Xiangyun, the instigator, she takes two as well. Duiju, facing the Chrysanthemum, and Gongju, offering the Chrysanthemum.
Very active themes. Facing,
Yeah.
offering, it shows her confidence.
Absolutely. And there's this little moment where her name gets changed. She first uses Zhang, but someone reminds her that her family has a pavilion called Pillow of Clouds Pavilion.
And Bao jumps on that.
Immediately, he sees the literary potential, wipes away Zhang, and changes it to Xia. She officially becomes Pillow of Clouds' old friend. It's a moment of them all agreeing that these literary identities are serious.
And the source says all 12 tomes were written in the time it takes to eat a meal.
Right. And then the quiet, meticulous Yingchen copies all of them onto a piece of snow wave paper.
That detail about the paper, the Shuling Anjian, it feels important.
It is. It's expensive, beautiful paper. It turns a spontaneous game into a permanent literary artifact.
Okay, let's dive into the analysis, starting with Bao Chai Hengujun. Her poetry is all about control.
It really is. Her first poem, Reminiscing, is focused entirely on the physical world. She writes about red smartweed, white reeds, thin moon, clear frost.
Things she can see and verify.
Exactly. And her conclusion is hopeful, just waiting for the double ninth festival. She anchors herself in what's real and external.
And her second poem, Wao Yu, Painting the Chrysanthemum, doubles down on this.
It's 100% focused on artistic technique. She describes splashing leaves into 1,000 dots of ink and staining flowers with a few traces of frost.
It's practical, it's skilled.
It is. For Bao Chai, mastering reality, mastering a medium, is her defense against emotional chaos. She doesn't let emotion overwhelm her. She masters the pain.
Which brings us to the dramatic counterpoint, Daiyu, Jiaxiang Faixi. Her poems are the polar opposite.
Completely. They are psychological, they are isolated, they are agonizing, really.
Take her first one, Young Ju, Chanting the Chrysanthemum.
Right away, she's talking about the turmoil behind her art. She writes about poetic demons invading dawn and dusk. For her, creativity isn't just pleasure, it's a necessary agony.
And then she turns inward.
She does. Full paper pities its plain complaints. Who can understand the sorrow of autumn in a single phrase? It's a confession that she feels fundamentally misunderstood.
That isolation gets even clearer in Wenju, questioning the chrysanthemum.
She asks the flower, open identically, why are some late? But she's really asking about herself, isn't she? About her own fate.
And then she pleads for connection.
Yes. Don't say the world has no one to talk to. Why not speak a word when it can explain? She's begging for an intellectual equal, a sympathetic soul, which the feast around her just can't provide.
Her final poem, Ju Meng the Dream, takes that longing somewhere else entirely.
It takes it into history and philosophy. She rejects Shuangzi's butterfly dream, and instead says she's seeking an alliance with Tao Yanming.
The famous poet recluse who loved chrysanthemums.
The ultimate recluse. She's basically saying, my true companions aren't here. They're in the past, in the world of ideas. Her final escape is intellectual.
Such a sharp contrast with Bayu, Yihong Gongzi. His work is just affectionate. It's about nurturing.
His whole approach is tender. In visiting the chrysanthemum, he treats the flower like an honored guest. But his poem on planting the flower, Zhangju, is really telling.
Why that?
Because it's about the physical labor of care. Spring watering, mud sealing, diligently protecting. Baoyu's life and his poetry is all about trying to protect and cherish beautiful, fragile things.
Especially the women around him.
Especially them.
All right, then we have Jiangyun Zhengxia Jiuyu, the host of the party. Her poetry is assertive.
It is. Her poem, Facing the Chrysanthemum, sets up this partnership. She says to the flower, no one is more arrogant than you in the world, looking over, only I am your bosom friend.
She's not observing it, she's claiming it as an equal, a co-conspirator.
A co-conspirator, I love that, yes. And her other poem, On the Flower's Shadow, is all delicate observation of light. So she's both energetic and incredibly precise.
And finally, we have Tanchen Jiaxia K, who kind of brings the whole thing to a close.
Her work is very reflective, very aware of tradition. Her poem, Pinning the Chrysanthemum, mentions the gentlemen of Chang'an and Tao Yuanming again. She's placing their little contest in a grand lineage.
And her last poem, Kanju, the Faded Chrysanthemum, is the perfect ending for the whole set.
It's so poignant. It describes the flower after the feast, past the light snow. It focuses on inevitable decay. The stem has lingering fragrance. The gold is pale.
A reminder that this perfect moment is already passing.
Yes. So the first challenge. It revolved around poems dedicated to the chrysanthemum, the juhushi. The judgment itself was treated with real gravity. It's described as a zhengping, a public evaluation led by Li Wan, which gives it this air of, I don't know, official seriousness.
Even though it's just among friends and family, yeah. You can feel the tension.
For sure.
And what's fascinating to me is how immediately they focus on technique, not just, flowery sentiment. They don't just read the poems, they dissect them, line by line. And then they answer the ranking. Yeonju first, Wenju second, and Jumeng third.
And the overall winner, the Kui, was Dayu. She just swept the board. But I'm intrigued by the focus on the third place winner, the Jumeng poem. If Dayu won overall, why did they spend so much time praising a third place poem?
That is such a perceptive question. And the answer, I think, it really reveals their core value system.
Okay.
Jumeng was celebrated for having a new theme, new poetry, and newer intention. The phrase was Li Gongxin.
So originality.
Exactly. It suggests that while Dayu might have shown the highest mastery of traditional technique, the judges really prized originality. The ability to take a standard topic, the chrysanthemum, and just turn it on its head.
So it's about defining the future of poetry, not just rewarding the most perfect entry of the day.
Yes. And that's where we get into the really interesting stuff, the granular line-by-line critique. They were judging with surgical precision. Dayu's line, ooh, garden, cold, setting sun, recalling old travels.
Right, that one got some very specific praise.
It did. It was lauded as applying powder to the backside. Damian Fufin.
Okay, wait. That sounds bizarre. What does that actually mean? How do you apply powder to the back of a chrysanthemum?
Well, think of it this way. It's a powerful technique. A lesser poet would just describe the flower's color, its petals, the obvious stuff.
Sure.
Dayu describes the garden's coldness, the setting sun. She makes you feel the memory of the old travels through the atmosphere, not the object itself. You're describing the shadow to convey the depth of the light.
Ah, so it's indirection, it's sophisticated, it avoids all the cliches.
Incredible skill and control. It's not just clever, it's elegant. She also had that other line, person tossing book faces a branch of autumn, which they just called marvelous.
And Li Wan pointed out her Diang line, the mouth holds fragrance one. It all speaks to her style, which, interestingly, she herself kind of critiques as being too delicate and clever.
And that self-critique is so telling. Dayu knows her style is light, quick, maybe a little overly polished, but then you see the judges recognizing different strengths. Tanchun, for instance, praises Bao Chai for a completely different approach.
Her calm and composed style, right. The Chenzhuo.
Exactly. It's so fitting for Bao Chai's character, always measured and reserved.
It is.
And Tanchun specifically noted how Bao Chai conveyed the abstract feeling of recalling with that amazing couplet, or autumn has no trace and dream has knowledge. That style is pure synthesis.
Capturing a huge, weighty emotion without any drama.
Right. And that really sets the stage for her later genius.
Even Bao Yu, who's usually so enthusiastic, he kind of humbles himself here. He admits his lines, which were pretty literal, whose house planted it. They just lacked that new cleverness, the Zenkyo that the judges wanted.
He got it. He understood the criteria. It wasn't enough to just describe the flower. You had to twist the idea, apply an advanced technique like Bamian Fufin, or get that quiet, conceptual depth that Bao Chai had.
I mean, that is some high-level literary critique. It sounds like they needed a break after all that.
Definitely. And what better way to reset than with a feast?
Right. So once the intellectual sparring is over, the group calls for hot crabs, rekshe. The setting completely changes. They move from that contemplative garden to a big, lively round table.
It's the perfect setup for a totally different kind of challenge. One focused on, appetite and wit.
And after they eat, the mood shifts so dramatically. It goes from refined aesthetics to something much earthier. And Bao Yu, he senses this and he proposes a new game.
A new challenge.
Exactly. Write poems celebrating holding crabs and appreciating cassia, the Qi Ao Shenengi. It's this spontaneous jump from, refined botany to luxurious, kind of messy consumption.
And Bao Yu, true to form, he's so eager, he writes his poem almost immediately. He describes the visceral joy of it all, splashing vinegar, grating ginger. He says the excitement was near madness.
He really embraced the indulgence, and I found his key imagery so relatable. He focuses on the crab, but also maybe a bit of self-mockery. He calls the crab, or himself, the gluttonous noble and the walking sideways gentleman without guts.
Hengxing Zhongxing Ke Wuchang. It's his charming way of undercutting the pomp of the whole thing.
Yeah.
He's highlighting the physical, almost base experience of eating. The coldness of the crab is forgotten because the craving is so intense. The fishy smell, it lingers on your fingers even after you wash them. It's honest and fun.
It seems like a perfectly good poem, but Dayu's reaction is just immediate dismissal.
She laughs.
She laughs and says she could write 100 such poems. And that right there, that's the signal. The standards are changing again. Technical cleverness is out. Biting wit and satire are in.
And that's the moment the competition truly heats up. Dayu, maybe a little stung by Baoyu's enthusiasm or just feeling competitive, she starts writing.
And her imagery is so much sharper than Baiyu's. She immediately casts the crab as a fallen warrior. She describes its appearance as iron armor, long spear, tiji shangor suiwang.
It's a really stark metaphor. It elevates the meal into a kind of battle, focusing on the cost of the creature's life. But then she pivots right back to the luxury of it all.
Full claws, tender jade, and red fat, fragrant.
Exactly. So it blends this tragic warrior image with the sensory pleasure of the food.
And then comes the twist, the incredible act of literary showmanship. Baoyu is already praising her poem, and Dayu she tears it up.
And burns it.
And burns it, and tells Baoyu his poem was better and should be kept. Now, is that genuine humility? Or is she just saying, look, I wrote something brilliant without even trying, but I don't even need the credit?
I think it's both. It's a performance of social decorum, not wanting to completely overshadow him.
But it's also a total power move.
A huge power move. She's demonstrated her talent and withdrawn it. Her superiority is noted, but she doesn't seem outwardly competitive. That is some high-level social maneuvering.
Fascinating. But then Bao Chai, who's been quiet this whole time, she offers her poem reluctantly. And this is the moment the poetry goes beyond just description or clever wit and into devastating social commentary.
This is the absolute masterpiece of the evening. Bao Chai, with her composed Chenzhua style, she manages to use this creature's short life as a mirror for all of human society.
The group was completely stunned by one specific couplet. They actually called out in admiration. Let's focus on those lines because they are the key. The first one, Zuk. The path ahead has no warp and weft, meaning no principle, no order.
That line alone is devastating. It takes a crab's frantic sideways movement and generalizes it into a commentary on chaos. The warp and weft, that's the threads in weaving, it symbolizes order, structure, moral principle.
So she's saying the world, the path ahead, is just fundamentally without any structure or morality.
Yes. And then the second line, which ties it all together. Inside the skin, only empty black and yellow. Meaningless critique, empty substance.
That's such a powerful metaphor.
It's a brilliant double meaning. The black and yellow are literally the crab's guts and fat. But Qingqi, spring and autumn, that refers to the great Confucian historical classic. It's synonymous with grand historical judgment.
So she's saying inside this shell, which looks like it should contain some great historical meaning, the Shunqi, there's just empty, worthless guts.
Precisely. She elevates the physical description of crab guts into a metaphor for cynical, hollow human affairs, maybe even the empty political maneuvering in their own society. It's a stunning, bleak assessment of the world, hidden inside a poem about dinner.
Which explains why Bao Yu immediately said his poem should be burned. He saw the difference between a fun, descriptive poem and philosophical genius.
Bao Chai drives the point home at the end. She mentions the ginger you need to counteract the cold and then the utter futility of the crab's sacrifice. Now that it has fallen into the pot, what good does it do? The satire is complete.
The verdict was swift, unanimous. Everyone agreed Bao Chai's poem was the absolute masterpiece of eating crabs, the Xipangxie Zhuesheng. Which brings us back to the crucial question. Why did this one transcend all the others? Even Dayu's brilliant, witty satire.
Because the group themselves state the new rule. For these small topics, like eating crabs, the writing must convey a great meaning, to be considered the work of great talent. The technical skill from the Chrysanthemum contest, that was just the ticket to get in the game. But true greatness, especially in satire, required philosophical, universal depth.